Academia and YouTube have a very strange relationship. I would say far stranger than academia with Twitter or Facebook or many other social media platforms. In this video, I want to give you a rundown of the state of academia on YouTube, and I want to close with a kind of call to arms, imploring you out there to try to come in, become a YouTube video producer, and bring a higher quality of academia onto this extremely powerful platform. There are four basic species or genres of videos on YouTube that deal with academic research. The first of these is what unfortunately I would refer to as TLDR, too long didn't read. These are the videos that are recorded during one or another public talk or presentation, some by leading scholars in a variety of fields. These are absolutely amazing talks. The problem with this kind of academia on YouTube is that basically no one watches these videos. You can comb through the various YouTube channels of major universities and museums. You can find people who you hold in profound admiration and awe, and then look at the view count and you will get instantly depressed. We're talking about maybe a dozen views, maybe a few hundred views, maybe every now and then breaking 1,000, even though some of them are years and years old and are actually part of a channel that publishes videos on a regular basis. But it's very clear why. First of all, these videos are extremely long, and that totally runs against the current of YouTube video length. But on top of that, these videos are not produced with YouTube or indeed any kind of channel in mind. They have, no different camera angles. Oftentimes the sound quality is so-so. Oftentimes you can't quite see the person's presentation at the same time you hear them. So generally speaking, the best production qualities that one can expect are, by YouTube standards, pretty run-of-the-mill or low, and that contributes to the low kind of viewer count alongside their extreme length. So if these videos featuring leading scholars, really the best scholarship you're going to find on YouTube, are getting no views, more or less, then is anyone getting views? The answer is yes, and this brings us to the second genre or species of, let's call it, academic research on YouTube, and this is what I would call the genre of cartoon history or infographic explainer videos. Now, as compared with these 45-minute, hour-long lectures, these are sometimes extremely well-produced video productions that clearly have on payroll an animation team, a production team, and so forth. And some of them are, lower quality in the grand scheme of things, but they are very well suited to YouTube as a platform and YouTube audience members. Typically speaking, what these often take the form of are these really goofy, childish animations that sometimes deal with very serious subject matter, whether it's World War or the Holocaust or the Atlantic slave trade, but rendered in this comical way that, although these videos can be very informative, is clearly not being produced based on cutting-edge scholarship, nor is it sometimes with the kind of sensitivity that one would expect when we're discussing, I don't know, the Crimean War or the sugar trade or something of this nature. So that's the second genre of academic research on YouTube. And as compared with the first, it gets a ton of views. We're talking videos that have views in the tens and hundreds of thousands and millions, and YouTube channels that have immense subscriber bases. So already, then, my point is, I hope coming across, is over here you have professional historians who spend their whole lives, delving into their area of research, really pushing the bounds of knowledge forward, but they are captured in videos that no one watches. And then on the other side, you have people that are reading, maybe they're doing their legwork, but oftentimes you get a sense that they're reading like the Wikipedia page, but they're putting all of this production value into it. It has these catchy graphics, much better sound, and is getting all of the views. So already we have this problem on YouTube in particular of lower grade scholarship getting all the views and extremely high quality academic scholarship getting practically none. This brings us to a third genre of academic scholarship on YouTube, and this is by far the most disturbing. And this is just the outright racist, often sexist, white supremacist kind of content that is not so explicit that you would be shocked to see it and immediately turn it off. There's almost a kind of alt-right light, like a Bud Light version of white supremacy that underlies a lot of the text. There are a few people that come to mind when I see this who sometimes pop up in my feed, I think because I'm an historian and I search for things on historical subjects, and then you get these feeds, and you give it a try, you watch one video, and then you watch another, and you start to think to yourself, wow, this guy is really obsessed with debunking Black history. Let me just see what other videos are in. My God, he is completely obsessed. And then you start looking again at the view count, and you realize that at some point in this particular person's past, way back when, they were making, extremely low quality videos, based on whatever kind of crackpot research that went into it, and, receiving 100 views, 500 views, maybe up to 1,000. But then as soon as this guy started posting about critiques of multiculturalism, or critiques of Black History Month, or critiques of something or another having to do with, biases in the history of the slave trade, and how, in fact, white slavery was as widespread, and all of suddenly his views start to skyrocket. And like many YouTubers, he reinvests in what works. He moves away from the stuff that gets only a few hundred, and he starts to double down on just one toxic, mildly toxic to more toxic video after the next, after the next, and after the next. And suddenly he's found his niche. But as it so happens, that niche is one that is premised on profound distortions of history and just practically bald-faced racism. So what you notice about this third species of I'll call it academic scholarship because it pretends to be, and people are unwittingly fooled into believing that it is, scholarship, is that then it forms or ties into, becomes a sort of gateway drug to the really dark sides of the YouTube algorithm and the YouTube video repository. So I noticed that the moment I watched this one guy's video, I started to get all of this darker and darker stuff in my feed. And I thought to myself, holy shit, like, where is this coming from? What have I watched that makes the YouTube algorithm think that I'm interested in this? And I realized it's this guy. So here we have a major problem. We have leading scholars delivering substantive work on, you name it, economic history, gender and sexuality, race and ethnicity, transnational history, receiving, 50 views in 7 years. And then we have these kind of goofy, cartoonish videos, and then outright white supremacist videos that are dominating the viewership, the view count, the subscriber list. They are just absolutely killing it when it comes to getting views on their videos. Now, I hope you can see where this is leading and why I started out this video by saying, we need you. We need scholars who do their work seriously, in a sober fashion, with rigor, to take the plunge, take the risk of putting yourself in front of people. And, you don't have to release manifestos. They don't have to be, particularly, in your face, but try to invest in making shorter videos with higher production values, not much higher, just a little bit higher, that try to address the areas of research that you know best, because there is so much room for it on YouTube, and it would do so much good to hopefully steer people away from some of this just dark shit that's out there towards real scholarship. This is not like what you see on Twitter and Facebook. I mean, you can encounter some amazing scholarship on both of those platforms. On YouTube, it is far more difficult, believe me. A fourth style is somewhere in between. Actually, it's a style that I like very much, and that it's kind of moving in a direction that brings together rigorous scholarship but higher production value. And this is exemplified in channels like Vox, as well as a number of others. I mean, they clearly have on their payroll serious researchers, serious motion graphics designers and others who actually take the time to, in many cases, reach out to relevant interviewees and try to invest in the kind of writing and just ruthless paring down and editing process that goes into making a video that is brief but also substantive and compelling. Now, of course, every now and then you'll see a Vox video that if you know the subject matter well, you're like, well, they're kind of, this is a little bit gimmicky. They're kind of paving over the nuance of it, but it's nothing like what we see with these cartoony videos, and certainly not like these sort of batshit white supremacists. So it is, in my view, a kind of model that is out there that if you were to dive into the pool and set up a channel and start producing your own videos, I think provide a wonderful set of examples, both in the research and writing and delivery vein, but also in the production value, the graphics, the titling, the motion graphics, all of which is within your power to learn. Maybe not to, as to the same level as a professional, but certainly a whole hell of a lot better than what we see in those too long didn't read 45-minute videos. So here comes my impassioned call to action. Really consider the power and reach of this platform, especially when compared to many of the other social media platforms which are out there and which probably, if you're like me, you already invest a fair amount of your time, if just leisure time, in, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Reddit or otherwise. Keep in mind that all of that time that goes into retweeting and crafting tweets and doing Twitter threads and all of that, which can produce really interesting conversations, and by all means keep it up. Remember that by and large, a tweet is an incredibly ephemeral thing. I mean, I don't get any more conversations generated out of tweets that I made 6 months ago or 3 months ago or even 1 month ago, and certainly nothing longer than that. And same thing for Facebook. I don't really get anything out of posts from a long time ago, even if at the time it generated all of this interest and comments and discussion. YouTube is not like that. YouTube is such a beast that as you build up a repository of videos, those videos can continue to get viewers 5, 10 years after you produce them, and that can turn into comments and discussions or just a general awareness of your scholarship or what you have to say. I think that it's undoubtedly true that jumping in the YouTube pool involves a much steeper learning curve, and it just feels a little bit more vulnerable or naked because you're speaking to an audience and there's equipment involved and there's audio and video and blah blah blah. There is a learning curve. Facebook and Twitter, a newbie, I think David Attenborough just joined Instagram or something. So it doesn't take very much to dive on some of these platforms. YouTube is a bit more challenging. But I think that in the long run, it is more rewarding because these things that you invest time in don't simply dissolve or disappear. They can live on and continue to make connections for you in ways that these other media platforms don't. And in a broader sense, getting past just you, yourself, and again, this ego hall of mirrors, breaking out of that, think of it this way. It's your obligation. And I mean that in a kind of facetious way, but I also mean it truly. You're a teacher. And as a teacher, you have a responsibility to share what you're learning, to pose your questions out loud, to work through it in front of your audience and your community. And I would say that whereas not everyone watching this is going to dive into the YouTube channel, I think if you're considering it, I would say that you kind of have a little bit of a moral obligation to do so, especially given the kind of shit that's on there now. And that if you say, it's a little bit embarrassing, I might do it wrong, it seems hard, whatever your excuse might be, just know that that's the same thing as saying, I'm going to let this batshit guy somewhere in England get 20,000, 30,000 views every time he posts some vitriolic nonsense encased in this kind of dopey, charming accent that he has, and I'm going to let that slide, and I'm okay with that. I can sleep at night okay with that. I would say that a good number of people watching can't sleep at night knowing that that's true, and that there's something to be done about it, which is it's not enough to just critique it or think about it. You actually serve us all better by learning how to do it, diving in the pool, and really changing the tenor and tone of scholarly discussion in this incredibly powerful platform. That's all I have to say for this video. If you got something out of it, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please give the video a like if so inspired, and subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next video.